Hello, Sim Gamers. Welcome to another episode of Let's Play Kerbal Space Program. A beautiful day at Kerbal Space Center once again. You may notice in the upper left-hand corner that I have more science than I did before. Basically, I did a quick bonus of launching that same satellite I sent to Jool, but just to kind of fly through Eve's sphere of influence and pick up some more science along the way. So let's go ahead and get this mission looking inward. Such a moving recitation. I wasn't sure how they were going to rhyme something with the word trajectory, but they pulled it off. Are you a fan of poetry, Director? If I hadn't become a scientist, I think I might have been a poet. If you think about it, puns are almost like poetry, right? Right? Director, where are you going? So click the link in the upper card thingy up here to go see that if you want to. It basically was just using that same satellite to go do a flyby of Eve, because there was a mission for basically an easy mission for 3,000 science. And we got some interesting other ones. Land in the molehole on Moho. So there's a lot of other bonus things that we can do for thousands of science at a time. It came from Lathe. Second Dibs Gold Edition. Plant a flag on Paul. Well, we got this Tylo monument to try and solve. Hello, Director. Lovely day, isn't it? Actually, I haven't been outside in, what day is it? Still, we've come so far, Director. Let's take a second to commemorate that. Wonderful! While you were resting, I took the liberty of sending the Duna message to the Institute of Old Stuff. Oddly enough, Levy came by to deliver his findings directly. I barely recognized him. He used to have bangs, and he used to shake when I spoke to him. I'm glad we have him on the team now. The Institute must be really invested in our discoveries. They might want to partner with us in the future. The Institute dug up references to Gorgia from an obscure gardening infomercial with a fertilizer mascot. It's Gorgia, Gorgia, the sentient tree at the center of the world. It's Gorgia, Gorgia, makes your plant grow with only 4 kinds. It's Gorgia. So catchy. The whole jingle is about 20 minutes. It's about how Gorgia grows tall to keep those 4 fruits safe, but the growing takes a lot out of him. While he's sleeping, the fruit reaches the heavens and then floats away, and so can your fruit at the low price of, you get it. It can't be a coincidence that both Kerbina and Gorgia have some kind of relationship with Kerbals. Perhaps we've met the builders who made these before. Whether they've originated here or were just stopping by is hard to tell. All we know is that they wanted to make contact, and each monument is harder to get to than the last. Do you think that was their intention? The only way to get answers is by asking who's responsible. We've picked up another signal. This time from Tylo. Did you know that Tylo was the first moon of Jool to be discovered by the Kerbal Astronomical Society? Yes, they thought it was a smudge on the lens at first. Our objective is to find the source of the mysterious signal on the surface of Tylo. Tylo's mass is similar to Kerbin's, but there's no atmosphere. That means high gravity but no atmosphere to slow you down. You'll need a lot of delta V and a high thrust-to-weight ratio to burn off your velocity before you make contact with the ground. In other words, you're going to need as much fuel as you can carry. The mission will put everything you've learned to the test. We believe in you, Director. Let's get to the bottom of this once and for all. Okay, Sim Gamers. We're ready to get our Tylo mission underway. We have our lifter stage. Once that expires, getting ourselves into orbit and hopefully a little bit beyond, we will then engage our main mission stage to do the Jool intercept and orbital insertion maneuvers, the Trans-Jool injection and Trans-Jool orbit insertion. And hopefully find a way to maneuver to Tylo. And then we have the lander stage meant to land on Tylo. So let's go ahead and get this thing lit off and going. Since this has such an aggressive thrust to weight ratio at 100 meters per second, we are going to tip quite a bit over. I'm going to push 20 degrees. We're going to revert to launch. I was too aggressive on that launch. And these fins aren't very big, so we had some dynamic pressure problems. Let's be a little more gentle here. We're going to keep our circle within the prograde marker, but we're going to keep pushing over until we get to... well, let's try 15 degrees off or so. Now, these boosters have all the strength we need, so... at 45 seconds, I'm going to kick off the main engine and just let the boosters do their job. Because it's still pushing me up and out of the atmosphere with just the boosters. We need a nice, efficient circular orbit so that we can conserve as much delta V as we need for the future mission stages. And now that these boosters are going, we can't turn them off. So you can see our apoapsis is climbing like crazy with no way to slow down here. Which is less than ideal as far as efficiency is concerned. Now that we are in space, we can extend all of our tools. Communications antenna, and solar power. We're coming up on the Kerbal periapsis, so I'm going to go ahead and turn the engine on just a little bit to help me sort of maneuver into place to get past these booster stages. Aim just about a bit above the horizon, and full throttle on our way. One thing I do need to do is turn this torque wheel off, though. Whenever possible, only have one torque wheel running at a time. We'll just go ahead and tune ourselves to the horizon here. All we're looking for right now is to establish something approaching a circular orbit. And then pretty much right at sunset is when I'm going to continue firing prograde to leave Kerbin's sphere of influence. And hopefully we can do that all with this stage, because we need to conserve delta V for up here. Looks like we're going to be fine. Let's go ahead and actually face the horizon, though. Okay. We've got an orbit. It's not the orbit, but it's an orbit. Warp to the horizon, set prograde, and begin thrusting. So we're a little bit ahead of the mission game here if we're able to use this delta V to start extending ourselves out of Kerbin's atmosphere, I believe. Unless I horribly miscalculated, which is entirely possible. That enables our nuclear rocket stage. And we're just spending a little bit of this delta V to get out of Kerbin's sphere of influence. Like so. All right, sim gamers. We're outside of Kerbin's sphere of influence, so we can start planning a maneuver. Got our solar panels on the sunlight. And now all we need to do is find an intercept with Jool. I'm going to start fairly close to us, maybe a half an hour out. Give me plenty of time to make this maneuver. Or to plan it. Descending node 1.3. Nuclear engine thrust. I'll be. Just a prograde thrust right there is giving us a Jool periapsis. We're going to tune and minimize that. And then we'll go to the ascending node and fine tune from there. Okay. Required delta V 2,530. That's a chunk. And we've got a burn coming up in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Engage. 2 minutes and 32 second burn. Thankfully, we can do this under time acceleration. Main engine cutoff in 2, 1, cutoff. How did we do? Did we actually pull off an encounter? We did. All right. We're on our way to Jool, but the numbers are tight. We've got 3,000 delta V to work with. We know we have a ascending node fix to worry about here. A descending node, so we need to change. We're at the descending node here, right? Yep. Create a maneuver. Something doesn't seem right. Let's quick save and fast forward a little bit. Okay. Descending node 1.3 degrees. Create a maneuver. Well, here's what we can do. Like always, we can go to Jool's map and see what's actually going on. So not only do we have an intersect, we have a collision course with a Jool set. A little bit of retrograde. We'll fix that. And we do want to be nice and tight in Jool's thing, because we're going to need aerobraking to do what we want to do, I think. We are in place, aimed the right direction, kicking off a 9-second burn in 4, 3, 2, 1, engage. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Now, I'm going to go ahead and leave that last second in here on purpose, so that I can actually go to Jool's reference point and fine-tune the rest of this manually. We can just apply very little thrust. To get this periapsis somewhere usable on the correct orbital plane, more or less. We're looking for a similar orbital plane to Tylo. That looks like that'll work. 76 kilometers is actually inside the atmosphere. fairly deep in the atmosphere of Jool, and that will essentially completely deorbit us. So we're not going to want to do that. But we'll worry about fixing that when we get closer to Jool's sphere of influence. So the trick that I'm always using here is that whenever I make a change to my trajectory, the further away I am from where I need to change my trajectory from, the more efficient any little bit of change I do is going to be. So I'm going to try some orbit normal or radial out to see if I can't get that periapsis to be a bit more friendly. If radial out doesn't work, we can always turn and try radial in. Radial out was the wrong thing. We've positioned ourselves back to radial in, and I'm just going to do 1% thrust, because, I mean, look how fast that's changing, even at 1%. Jool periapsis, 300 kilometers is fine at this point. Now, we fast forward to Jool's sphere of influence. We're in Jool's sphere of influence now. Another mid-course correction. So this is where we're gonna make several attempts. I'm probably gonna end up quick loading a few times. Yes, we're going to use radial in, and what we're trying to do is get ourselves set up with just a little dip through the atmosphere. The problem is, I don't know exactly what altitude I want to be at. I know I need to be higher than 150 kilometers and lower than 200 kilometers, but that's all the information I really have. So with that in mind, oops, sheesh, this thing is sensitive. $50 kilometers is not the move. This rocket is way more powerful than whatever I had before. I'm going to try for like 185 or something. All right, we are too far away to get this sort of granularity that we want to. So how about we go halfway? Okay, Sim Gamers, we are halfway into the sphere of influence for Jool. And really, we're just fine-tuning our periapsis here for just a little dip in the atmosphere. Just a little one. Dip our toe through that atmosphere and use it for some aerobraking to slow us down. And hopefully establish a circular orbit around Jool. As you can see, even from here, the tiniest bit makes a difference. So I'm going to go halfway again. Quick save right here. This is the point we're going to come back to if it turns out that this orbital maneuver doesn't work out for us. All right, we're getting ourselves aimed the right direction. We're beginning this plunge into the very tippy tip of upper atmosphere of Jool. We have more data to transmit if we want it. About 1,000 science worth of data, actually. We have an experiment running. Hopefully we'll be able to collect it in time. $920 science worth of data. Oh yes, we're here with crew observations. I forgot. And I can see our orbital line subtly moving, so aerobraking is having an impact. We've only got 40 seconds remaining on our atmospheric survey. And we are slowly climbing back out of Jool's atmosphere. What impact did it have on our situation, though? Doesn't look like it was enough. So as we're coming out of Jool's atmospheric sphere of influence, we realized that maneuver wasn't quite what we wanted, so we're going to go ahead and reload this quick save. So we loaded up the last quick save and we fast forwarded a little bit to get a little bit closer, and now I'm facing retrograde. I want to try to get this periapsis down a little bit lower. We'll try it with 1% thrust. Let's try, let's aim for 170. About like that. Okay, at this point we're not even really getting any re-entry heating. Is it sufficiently impacting our orbit? It's actually having a pretty good impact. I can see it shifting. We're flipping by various intercepts. That was pretty close. So 170 didn't quite do it. Let's aim for 165. All right, we are at basically our periapsis, slowly climbing out, and it looks like this will have done the trick. It might have done the trick too well. Because Tylo's way out here. Sure enough, it looks like 165 actually gets us full-blown deorbit. Let's try 169, 168. I guess 167 and a half. We have new science to collect here. Very good. Okay, we're under 500 kilometers, so we're going to get everything buttoned up for re-entry. Or for the aerobraking, sorry. Little ultra concentration mode here. Once we're in position in full retrograde, we'll go ahead and retract the solar panels, just making sure they can pull in as much electricity as possible right now while we have them. Retract those. And we've gotten all of our science catalog, like we have 360 science data available, a bunch of samples, which we might be able to bring back. 167.5 is our approximate target. We're going to go ahead and run this atmospheric sample and see how we do at 167.5 for our aerobraking maneuver. 165 was too low. It actually brought us to a complete stop. And there's the bottom of our descent. We're climbing back out of the atmosphere. So my missions and your missions will be different if you're playing along. That means your altitude might be different for what you want to work with, but 165 I think was the move. That gets us so close. Now we can begin. We're already retrograde. Yeah, things got nice and hot, but they didn't blow up. That's the important thing. They did not detonate. So we're facing retrograde. We need to go ahead and turn on our rockets here just to complete getting ourselves an orbit. Okay, we're in Jool capture. Now, I want to make sure that we get an intercept with Tylo of some kind. And I think we can do that. Like, it's going to take very little delta V, you can see, to bring us into a better orbit around Jool. Now, if we get ourselves into an orbit, basically where our apoapsis is up, where Tylo is, we can just sort of keep going around and around and around until we find an intercept, really. There's nothing saying we have to do anything in particular other than just stay here. Like so. The chances of us eventually getting a Tylo intercept are pretty good. So we'll just orbit around a few times. Oh, bother. I forgot a very important detail. We actually need to raise our periapsis, which means we'll just warp to the apoapsis. Forgot to raise the periapsis up out of the atmosphere. We just turned prograde here. Everything's deployed already. And a little bit of thrust at this point will go a long way. Let's give us some room to work with. I'll go ahead to 300 kilometers. Something like that. Now, setting Tylo as our target body. So what we can do, we can go around another orbit. When this orbit gets close, we can do some maneuvers, actually, to change how our orbit interacts with Tylo. But I want this 2B marker to be much closer than it is right now. A couple orbits later. This flyby of Lathe is really messing up my trajectory, so we're going to go ahead and just raise our Jool periapsis by going prograde to skip out of Lathe's atmosphere, so we don't get an encounter there. But that does mean we miss our Tylo, our next possible Tylo intercept. So I guess we're going around and around for a little bit here. A few more orbits later. Now Val is pulling us off of our track. Well, we'll go to our current apoapsis and deal with that there. So it is a total shooting gallery in here, just trying to get an intercept we like. So we are coming up in position to hopefully dodge Val now. But while dodging Val, make sure that we don't end up back in Jool's collision gallery here. So that's Lathe, that's Val. Once we're past Val's sphere of influence. Oh, we still had a minor encounter with Val. Okay, whatever. Did that mess us up much? No, in fact, it totally helped us. Okay. We have a Tylo periapsis, everybody. Now the question is, what's our ascending node situation right now? Looks like when we encounter Tylo, we're coming by Jool. We encounter Tylo. Looks like we encounter Tylo quite low. Oh, we have an ascending node right here we can work with. Perfect. And actually, since we know we're at the coming up on the ascending node, and we can actually fix that right now, probably. Increase our thruster. 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay. That is a nice tight Tylo encounter at 1,000 kilometers. I wonder what our orbital velocity at that point is going to be. That's what we're going to have to find out, I guess. But we're not doing any crazy, completely orbital velocities at this point. All right, we are just outside of Tylo's sphere of influence. And it looks like the order of the day is radial out to get this periapsis where we want it. We are facing radial out, which is that way to the right, which should push this orbit, I believe, closer to Tylo. We'll try it. And I'm wrong. Radial out was the wrong thing. Hopefully radial in is the correct thing. Seems to be. We'll get this down to 100 kilometers. Maybe even closer. And then I guess it's a question of, do we have enough delta V to hit the brakes? Because we've only got 2,000 left. Okay. Here we are in Tylo's sphere of influence, which means there's more science for us to grab. We now have 1,176 science on board. I'm going to stop maneuvering for the moment. Plan a maneuver node around Tylo to see if we have enough delta V to establish an orbit. Hot damn. Not only can we get a nice orbit, we can get a nice circular orbit. That's looking really sharp. We can go ahead and face our maneuver node and get ready for that maneuver. We'll see you on the dark side of Tylo. About 20 seconds away, or we are maneuvering for our turn. We have more research opportunities available to us. 1,446 science on board now. And we're going to be doing this burn pretty soon here. In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, ignition. Just burning on the dark side of Tylo, bringing our craft into orbit with 25 seconds to go. These large nuclear engines doing a ton of work for us. Looking pretty sparkly along the way, too. Get a nice view of that engine. All right, engine cut off in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, cut off. We have ourselves a Tylo orbit, everybody. Now, and we're pretty well parked over this object we're trying to get to. Okay, here's a situation report, Sing Gamers. We're basically at a point where we're going to go ahead and decouple our lander craft and have it prepare its maneuvers to land on Tylo. I'm going to make sure my mothership is rotated for maximal sun efficiency on these solar panels. Just keep it sort of facing that way, should be fine. Quick save. And staging. Swapping control. Let's face towards... Oh, we need to turn on the torque wheels. And from here on out, this thing needs to switch to internal power, so... Let's see how 10% power treats us. I'm facing this way so I can just get a little bit of thrust going on. Now, retrograde. Landing gear. Warm up the engines. We've begun our descent to Tylo. We might have to reload a quick save a time or two here. Because Tylo's rotating while we orbit above it. And we do have to do a plane change as well. So it's going to be an anti-normal type of situation. But this is using very little delta V just to get our position set. Something... thinking I aim for the flats over here because Tylo's going to orbit underneath me. Something like that. Turn, orbit, anti-normal. I guess returning normal, orbit normal. And we will see how that landing zone treats us as we come on down. Now we know our velocity is 1,700 something meters per second. We're going to pick some up, obviously, doing here, but we know that we need to set this velocity the same, 1,700 meters per second, and then do that kind of thing. And it may be that Tylo isn't actually rotating as much as I had thought it would underneath us as we come down. It is definitely not. So we're going to load that last quick save. And spend a little bit of Delta V going prograde. And to make my life easier, I'm going to go ahead and throw this past the crater. Because here's what I can do, since I know I'm not really rotating underneath it. Create a maneuver right here. Retrograde at least 1,700 meters per second. And we can zoom in on Tylo to fine-tune where this actual landing spot's going to be. Right, so that would be the impact spot. If I raise it up a little bit, fine-tuning this maneuver is the thing we're trying to do here, really. Like I said, I know we're going to need 1,700 Delta V to bring us to a stop, right? And that allegedly, supposedly lands us in 1,700 Delta V. So we'll face retrograde and try this landing. Rotate my craft around so that it makes sense how I'm piloting it. That's exactly backwards, actually. So we'll continue rotating here. We'll double check if there's any science available. All right. Kicking on the Poodle suicide burn, and I could just barely make out some of the pixels of this landing site that we got going on. The new Delta V planning tools are so useful because it tells you where your actual impacts and stuff are going to be. We're just burning straight retrograde. Doing a fairly straightforward suicide burn. We can turn on our lights. We're still moving way too fast, though. Like, way too fast. Hello, monument. Goodbye, monument. Hello, crash site. And yeah, we're loading. So that burn did not do the trick. Was not the answer. We had a lot more velocity to lose. I think we're basically where we just want to hit our retros right now. Again, I'm rotating my ship so that when I get to flying it like I want, we'll just be able to pitch it down, up, down, left, right, forward, backwards in a way that makes sense. We're bleeding off velocity here. This is how Apollo did it. They sort of did this sort of thing. It not only changed their orbital trajectory, but also decelerated them. Coming up over the site now. Let's go ahead and punch it. I'm going to push to the side a little bit to get myself aligned better with where I want to be landing. Yeah, that's looking really good. We got plenty of delta V for this. Let's go ahead and get ourselves into hover mode here. And just adjust where we want to go. We're very, very close to the monument. Oh, look at that. That is so cool. If we keep ourselves at a constant 40 meters per second or so, slow and steady wins the race, Sim Gamer. We've got about 800 delta V to work with. Let's just face up and away. And we can use that as a reference. Is my altitude 900 meters? I'm going to pitch forward a little bit. Got a good hover setup here. Not too much. We're sort of landing on the wrong side of this monument, and we are chewing through our delta V. Just trying to arrest my forward velocity here as much as I reasonably can and set down. Okay, well, you know what? How about that for a landing? We just completely ran out of fuel, and we can't quite see the front of that thing, but Jeb will be happy to get her out and give us a tour. But first, holy smokes, we have a lot of stuff. So we're landed and settled on this rock. We have more science we can grab if we get out. But before I do any of that, I want to make sure and transmit what I have. Because we've got 2,436. Now that we're back here, we've got our solar panels, we've got our communication set up. We have a bunch of science to send back. Ah, dang it, it says no connection here. So our satellite is not able to act as a relay. That's too bad. So we will just have to live off of whatever science we have available on here, which is 1,086 or something like that. All of our science is transmitted, and we have someone on the ground. We've discovered the thing, and with 2,278 Delta V, we might just maybe be able to bring these guys home. But I'm going to get over to Mission Control and wrap up this episode. Tylo Monument. We've got it. The next signal is coming from Tylo. Yep. Submit. Director, you did it! We did it! We successfully launched a mission to Tylo and found the source of the signal. I'm so glad I quit my job as a math teacher to do this. We've accomplished some extraordinary things together, haven't we? After you discovered the Tylo Monument, all of the other signals we were monitoring stopped in unison. The only signal left is the one at Tylo, and it's in our language. Sort of. You'll see. The message says, "Joyous salutations, younger siblings. You have grown upward. We are feeling the emotion of pride. To have made it this far, you must be ready for something meteor. Jubilant wheezing, humorous diversion is the best pharmaceutical. This belief, like many others, we share. Come find us where Kerbal does not shine. We shall be waiting. Good luck." So it turns out we were right. They do want us to find them. They know that one of the spheres on the Tylo monument represents Kerbal. But what about the other? There's nothing in the Kerbalar system like it. I wonder if the next signal is even further away. And did you hear that glorious pun? Why are these builders so good at everything but telling us where they are? Well, I suppose they did, didn't they? We just have to figure out what they mean. Imagine, we explored the Kerbalar system and possibly made first contact. We did that. All in a day's work around here. I hope you get some well-earned rest. It's been an honor, Director. Until our next adventure. Mission completed. The Tylo Monument, giving us 10,000 science. And that, Sim Gamers, is where we're going to call it for this particular playlist. This particular run of Kerbal Space Program 2. I want to thank you all for tuning in and all your comments and encouragement and ideas along the way. It's meant a lot to me, but there will be more Kerbal Space Program 2 content coming down the pipe. Probably just not as frequently as I have been before. Maybe I'll do a weekly Kerbal Space Program video and some shorts and things like that. But until those future things come out, this playlist is a wrap. This mission is a wrap. We made it all the way out to Tylo, completing the main campaign missions that are available right now in the For Science update of Kerbal Space Program 2. Until next time, I have been Sim Gamer.